So control overshadows every issue and clouds every sense of responsibility that the child has. And parents get locked in this control battle over and over and over and over. And it always ends in misery. Now that was my lesson. And I had been a counselor. And I didn't have any respect for people who couldn't control their kids. Do you see where I was coming from? Like I say, when I graduated from college, I used to be very smart. And then I came up against the brick wall and life's real experience. And I had to go back and research and figure out what had really gone wrong in my life and what was really basically true and go back to fundamentals, all right? So this is the case. Continually trying to control what we cannot and should not control is the cause of most of our anxiety, stress, and unrighteous anger in life. Would you agree with that?
Yep. Yes.
Very obvious, isn't it? We can have peace and get control of our own lives again only when we give up trying to control and rescue others who continue to make irresponsible choices. Will you buy that?
Yep.
I want to tell you, when I turned Danny's life over to him, and I wasn't obsessed every second of trying to change his mind and control his life. When I backed up and said, Danny, this is your life. I'm done with it. I can't do a thing for you. I love you. I support you. I'll love you forever. But you've got to stand up and be counted. You've got to take responsibility for your life. And if you're going to kill yourself, we'll go to your funeral, we'll bury you, and then we'll go on with our lives. And I can deal with that. But I can't deal with this. I cannot dedicate my life to this insane chase anymore. To this insane battle. This is insanity, son, and I quit. How many people does it take to play tug of war? And I laid down the rope and I walked back. And all of a sudden I had a life. And I had other kids. And I had a wife. And there was neat things to do. And I could think about something else. I was free. Because I was under his control when I was trying to control him. Because I was playing this insane game. I hope this is making sense to you. Because this concept will manifest itself over and over 100 times a day in some of your lives. When you'll have to require other people to be responsible, where you'll step back sometimes and let your kids crash and burn and learn the results of their irresponsible decisions. All right? Now, let's go on. This is probably the most important thing I can tell you. This is the reason why I don't do personal counseling anymore. This is the reason why I teach rather than counsel. All right? Look at this chart. You see on the left-hand concepts. In the right-hand column, you have behavior. And in the middle, you have feelings. So first we have concepts that lead to feelings that lead to behavior. Now typically what would happen is parents would come into my office and they had the wrong idea about their parenting responsibility. They had the wrong concepts. They were believing lies. They were based on phony concepts and ideas. For instance, they believed that it was a parent's duty to control and force a child to do what is right. Now, after they put that in their heads and they go forth into life and try to do it, it doesn't work. And so they feel like a failure. And they feel guilty because their children do not respond like that. And they start to have these very bad feelings, sense of guilt, pain, and they feel impotent. They worry. There's guilt. And when you have a person that feels like that, they act like a moron. And they're raging pretty soon. They're criticizing. They're threatening. They're intimidating. And they fall into all the parent traps. Do you get the sequence? Concepts, false concepts, produce negative, impossible feelings. They're angry and lots of energy, which turn into behavior. Now you go into therapy, and you're a raging nut by now. And the counselor will work on your behavior. You got to stop hitting your kids. You got to not do that. People, you can work on that forever, and it will never change. You'll just make the guy more guilty. Because what's driving the behavior? The emotions. Say, okay, let's get smart now. We know about that. Okay, we'll work on the emotions. Don't get so mad. Control your anger. Another fantasy. You'll go to counseling for 5,000 years. Because what's driving those angry feelings? What's driving the angry feelings? The wrong concept. Does this make sense? So the only way to correct this is to get the true model. Remember, the top is garbage in, garbage out, right? And so the top model is the true model, that you use correct principles, you allow choice, you administer consequences, and you trust in the program. And you never go across the road to the dark side and start doing that. Intimidating and screaming and hollering and forcing and controlling. Okay? Now once you have the true idea in your mind, you have feelings of faith and trust and confidence and joy and gratitude and assurance and peace. And when you feel like that, and these are good, positive, strong feelings of love, you manifest patience, kindness, love. You give free choice, accountability, consequences, and you support the child through their problems. Does this make any sense to anybody? So I have dedicated my life to this, of getting the right concepts in people's heads, of the right roles, and not worry about all these terrible, terrible ideas that we have in our heads that are wrong. Making any sense here?
Yes.
Okay. Now I've got to get you out of where you are before you're ready to accept anything else I have to say. That's why I have to spend time on this. And if you do not accept this and believe this, there's nothing I can do for you. And you will stay trapped in your control and your anger and your rage and your fear and your guilt forever. And I will tell you this, that your anxiety in life is directly proportional to the degree that you are involved in this program. And your peace and happiness and joy is directly proportional to how much you use this other program. Do you see why? This program always ends in misery. It's the formula for failure. And I beg you to consider new concepts, to clean out the inner cup, to have the true principles in, the true concepts which lead to good feelings, which lead to good behavior, good, loving, accepting behavior. And you step back and know that there's no way you can control other people's lives. They're going to run their own lives. You accept them and support them through all their problems. One other big piece for me, and that is this, that people only make the mistakes that they need to make. You never make mistakes you're too smart to make. You only make mistakes when you're stupid, and then you have the consequences of those stupid mistakes, and then you learn that was not so smart. Don't touch a hot stove. Make sense? Not very smart, to touch hot stoves. Therefore, your children are going to make in their life the mistakes they need to make for their personal deficiencies. And they're going to learn. Now, you might be able to hold the line and force them until they're 18, and then they leave, and then they're going to learn those mistakes the hard way. So it's better to work with them when they're teeny. From out of the false ideas that skilled parents can control their children come many more destructive parent traps. The idea of being angry, for instance, at our children. Anger is an attempt to control. Why are we so angry? Anger is a secondary emotion. First, we feel frustrated, pained, humiliated, or we're embarrassed, or we're frightened, whatever it is. We have these negative feelings, and these negative feelings are very painful. And when we finally had enough of it and we're tired of it, we gather up all our negative feelings and put them in a sack and convert them all to rage and anger, which is the way we mobilize ourselves to change the situation. Anger has a demand in it. Anger says, I am unhappy with that, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore. So anger is when you're frustrated and can't control. Anger is when your kids won't do what you want them to do, and they're hurting you because they're hurting themselves. So anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is the pathetic cry of the impotent. We choose to be angry in an attempt to force and control. Do you feel guilty and responsible because your children misbehave and make poor choices? Do you believe that you've been an inadequate parent? If we love and teach our children to do what is right, we are not responsible for the lives they choose to live.